Hey guys, welcome to another, shoot, we're gonna have a black screen because I forgot to update the map. Is this Polestar? I didn't even check what the map was. It is Polestar. Was there a previous map Polaris? I feel like there was a previous map Polaris. And I guess this, I don't know that this was exactly a sequel to it, right? Anyway, we're starting in the upper, sorry for the black screen everybody, but at least it's at the beginning of the game. Worst is currently down a game going up against Earob. We're starting the upper right corner as the green Protoss. Bottom left hand corner we got Earob starting as the magenta Protoss. As you guys have already noted, this is in fact Polestar. I do like that they put this kind of like utopian green garden here in the middle with surrounded by a little bit of minerals. Wonder if the numbers are significant somehow. 428, 571. That is an odd number of minerals and a little generator as well. That kind of looks like a happy robot. I'm sure there's significance to the maybe birth dates or something along those lines. Anyway, if you guys missed game one, it was honestly pretty straightforward. Earob opted to go a little bit safer DT into expand build, and Worst did not build any detection whatsoever. And I'm almost curious if Earob opted to do that to respecting maybe Worst's Reaver play. We'll see if Reaver plays, if Worst opts to play Risky again. We're again cross map, by the way. In game one, it was basically identical build orders to start Gateway Assimilator. It looks like we are seeing Gateway Assimilator as well. A little bit of a forward gateway here. So Earob has placed this gateway a little bit away from the ramp. Worst has placed this a little bit closer to the ramp. So there is a possibility that we're going to see with this placement a little bit more aggression on the front. We'll have to see. This allows the units to get in place a little bit more rapidly, either to deny the scout or to get in position. So here they're more defensive. You can get them back in place. No defensive zealot queued up from Earob as of yet. Cybernetics score first instead. Same thing, opposite side. And we'll see once we hit 100 minerals. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and both players mirroring each other once again. Mirroring so much, like watch when I hit the gateway, how the line doesn't really change at all. Worst is once again going to end up with a earlier scout into his opponent's base. The scout is spotted. Earob making his way up to top right. Slight opportunity. Oh, it looks like he's just going to disrupt. I always wonder about this, attacking the gas line. Because I feel like what that does is like the probes mostly regenerate their shield while they're in the gas, right? So you don't really accomplish much aside from interrupting the spacebar attack there. Even attacking... So at cross position, if you're getting maximum value out of the probe, either it's going to be... I mean, this is just silly me talking about this. I mean, it's not like that's going to be game-changing. But strategically, bear with me here. Matter Pylon is your best option to disrupt anything if you're going to risk it. But secondarily, like, you got to be attacking the probes, right? Because that's where you might get some base damage. Otherwise, by the time you see any of this again, like you try to chew into a pylon, that shield's going to be regenerated by any space of time that you make your way back. I never thought about that as far as like Protoss. Protoss is, by the speaking of base damage, it looks like Earob took a shot. I think he probably likely saw the cybernetics core spinning on his way across, going for a sneaky maneuver out of position. Is he going to go? I also wonder, because Earob kind of moved the probe at an odd angle previously. We are seeing one gate into Robo thus far. We'll see if a second gate's dropped as far as a turnaround. Earob's still scouting around with this forward probe. Worst also scouting around after that one. He's expecting some sort of sneakiness, maybe because he caught that probe at an odd spot previously on the map. Because maybe Earob was thinking about DT drop and then just transitioned it into DT expand. But at the same time, Earob is just wandering out here on the map, and Worst a little bit paranoid. Otherwise, I would say like that's not a, it's not a super common build order, but it's not I wouldn't call it like a cheesy build order, the 1DT into expand build. There are a lot of players that use that to effectively just force the game to the mid game against particular opponents. That probe nearby, now getting chased down, by the way, by the 2 Dragoons and a Zealot at close position. This probe gonna go ahead and fan its way across. 3 Zealots, or 3 Dragoons, I should say, waiting. Otherwise, we are gonna see so robotics into second gateway, observatory along the way. The probe definitely gonna get caught. This is the land of no escape, but it is forcing these Dragoons pretty far out of position. Worst in the meantime getting robotic, so just going one gate into support bay and observatory. It also looks like Worst in the midst of that, microing against that, didn't get a couple probes on the line, which messed with his economy a little bit. That probe glitching through the line somehow after dropping the support bay. I do like one gateway into robotics at cross position better than two gateway as far as a play, mostly because you just have so much distance and it's a little bit more defensive, allows you to get reavers out. By the way, Worst in moving forward to engage. I think he just wants to this isn't a skill check. I think this is just to check what's going on the front as far as unit composition. That Zealot's a little bit far forward, but this is still 5 versus 4. He sees the Zealot, saw edges of it, and I think he sees the shimmer, so he knows that a robotics is in play. Earob's still trying to get his way forward to see whether there was a Nexus or not. Does in fact spot the Nexus. He's going to drop his own Nexus. That'll be slightly behind. Not a huge significance behind, but we'll see if Earob makes any sort of adjustments from here. First Reaver is going to be out. He'll at least have Reaver versus Reaver advantage. Worst up 2 workers, by the way, somehow in the midst of this. Maybe because of just that. I think that might be because of just the scouting that Earob was doing, where he sent out the initial worker. Second gateway being dropped here. It could also be that there was just a probe missing in the build order. But you can see upon, I like that from Worst, where he saw that observatory, that I should say the observer shimmer. So he's like, okay, we know that there's a possibility of drops. Let's just go ahead and get our pylons to the corners. Earob doing the same preemptively, by the way. So let's just go ahead and fan it out to the corner, so we'll see the drops coming when the time comes. Speed being upgraded, we're about halfway finished here. Natural expansion up, and Worst somehow, are we pausing? We're not pausing unit production. As the Nexus is coming up, Earob is actually behind 4 workers, which is a lot. 4 workers is like an extra Zealot or a Dragoon, potentially. Reaver's been scooped up. Speed potentially will complete somewhere along this pattern. Looks like 1 Zealot's been scooped up, but not a second Zealot. And is this observer going to move out of... Keep in mind, there's no additional observer. So Earob going to move out. Shuttle speed is going to finish fairly rapidly, and it may be going to make a dive bomb on the main. And we'll see if Worst detects it. He has dropped a pylon at the 12 o'clock location, so the shuttle checking 6 o'clock and fanning back out here. So Earob actually using the shuttle to scout towards the right. Earob opening things up. Earob just a little bit ahead. Okay, just going to scoop up that second Reaver. Is he going to move forward with his attack force? At cross position, actually, I feel like Worst is in a good scenario where he could probably just sit back, macro up a little bit. Earob is moving out in the midst of this, as is Worst. Worst has his, and I think this is going to be more or less even army. 8 Dragoons versus, I believe that's 8. 8 versus 8, you got a Zealot, yeah, and 2 Reavers. The Observer sees Worst's army making its way across. The Observer's been picked off. But the advantage here for Earob is that Worst doesn't know the location of his enemy. And so Earob might be able to get a high ground jump exactly like this. And it looks like a few Dragoons getting pinned to the corner, but the Reavers were actually way too far out of position. Now, joining the attack force, I don't think speed really helping out. Ooh, big initial shot in Worst's favor. Some Dragoons taking some big shots. The shuttle's gone. But at close positions, Reaver's getting cleaned up. And I think this is going to be an army reset both directions, although the Reavers, it's going to be 1 Reaver advantage to Worst as he retreats. And he's still up 6 workers and an observer now. Zealot that was thinking about being part of that fight, he's like, I'll just wander back. So that's giving Worst a 10 supply lead. I will say at cross position, so how many gateways do we have as far as a follow-up? We got 4 gateways, 6 gateways being landed here from Worst, which suggests to me that he's actually thinking about going a little bit more heavy in the follow-up rather than grabbing faster Nexus in the midst of this. Maybe go for kind of a soft contain on Earob and use that extra Reaver he's got to do a couple swipes at the front. By the way, speaking of which, 2 Reavers making their way to the natural. Shuttle taking some damage, sacrifices that Reaver. That's going to be a dud shot. These Dragoons running up, trying to engage that shuttle, but shuttle speed's going to keep it alive. At the very least, well, this is kind of an awkward situation, because Worst knew that was incoming, so Earob doing the wise decision and actually cycling it back around this observer will reveal that that shuttle's returning back home. In the midst of this as well, Earob has managed to equalize the worker count, and all of a sudden he's 5 supply up. So good job on his part. And actually, this just might be a pause point as I look at it both directions. So 4 gateways, a 5th gateway being tacked on. No 6th gateway, however. So Worst will have the 1 gateway advantage. Another observer getting picked off from Earob. But Worst's army has been spotted making its way across. And Worst once again a little bit more in the dark in comparison. Earob making his way towards the 9 o'clock. Off 5 gateways, he can potentially make that run. Oh, bad timing. However, huge hit. 4 probes and more coming. It's like Earob is not paying it. Okay, now sees it as he's going for a full-on attack. That shuttle has been battered this entire time. Finally gets picked off. He's going for a full-on counterattack now that that Reaver's out of position. Do we have more? I think we've got more Reavers. Wait, yeah, we got another Reaver crawling its way across. Earob does have double Reaver here. He needs to be very careful with this. And there's no shuttle that's been built in the meantime on top of this. Earob with some excellent game sense, by the way, to note this. Although that Reaver taking some free shots before, gotta be careful, taking a lot of free damage. But still, this is a great pocket to just start shuttling out. And where I was expecting Worst actually to pull this maneuver, instead it's Earob. He's at close position, loses that shuttle, loses both Reavers, and is actually even on supply, is pushing into this. Holy cow. Really diving aggressively. Keep in mind, he's the one with 5 gateways versus Worst 6, so Worst is going to be able to outsupply him, especially at proximity. And both players drawing back. It looks like a reinforcing army going out to the 9 o'clock, so kind of an army reset. Might be able to get a free pylon there. That probe is very likely going to lose its life. And is Earob just going to go ahead and drop? Yeah, just going to go ahead and drop that Nexus. But Worst has resupplied very, very rapidly off the 6 gateways. Does he have the game sense to turn around and go for an assault, though? Starting to make his way out. Earob has a very thin army. He's 1 gateway down. He's just now getting a Reaver out. Citadel of Adun as well. No shuttle to provide support. So Worst has an opportunity, but it is a very, very thin window. Less than a minute, I would presume, here. Because as soon as that shuttle's in play, that Reaver providing support, especially with Worst not having a Reaver to make its way. Actually, never mind. Looks like he's got double Reavers. Also, speed will help shuffle between the two. Point being, Worst has an opportunity here. Earob is going to have to defend a lot of territory, and most of his Dragoons are currently at the 9 o'clock. He also doesn't have a lot of observers, so that probe making its way across, spotting the Dragoons, that is huge. Earob repositioning the Dragoon, or the units to the south. Here comes that shuttle on its way across. Shuttle almost takes some heavy fire. Reaver able to scoot back. This pylon getting assaulted because no observer here at near side, but Earob has a good sense of where the— oh no! I was about to say he had a good sense of where this unit was. I was expecting him to drop that short. All of a sudden the situation flips. Dragoon's trying to engage. Now he's attacking high ground to low ground. He does have the closer reinforcement point. His Nexus is going to come up more rapidly, but I don't know that he's going to feel comfortable reinforcing. And Worst is on his doorstep. 12 o'clock base is up as well. Some Zealots making their way across. Zealot leg speed is going to finish much more rapidly for Earob. Tense game both directions. Reshuffling. Probes now making their way up to that 3rd base. That will be a faster saturation. Do we have a 6th gateway as of yet? We do have High Templar starting to mix in. No Psystorm as of yet, though. No +1 weapons either. Earob with double shuttle, 3 Reavers, pressing the way forward. That is a lot of bulk to push through Earob's front. Only a single Reaver shot getting through at this stage. The Zealots trying to chase up, and I think Earob does not have enough to stem the tide at this stage. I'm guessing there are still 6 gateways pushing in the midst of this. Worst has opened up a massive supply advantage. Loses a shuttle, but it was the one with a single Reaver rather than the dual. Earob trying to sneak back to the Nexus line. And unfortunately, he actually sneaking out a Dark Templar. No Observer in the midst of this, or the Reaver to the south, distracting some of the Dragoons. The Dark Templar trying to wipe out the Reavers, but I think this is going to be too little too late. As we got a full control group practically. High Templar without Storm walking up, and that's going to be a dead third base. That is very likely GG. And there's also now an Observer in place. If Dark Templar are going to try to sneak up to protect this, it wasn't going to get a lot done. Archon moving up. These poor two Dragoons to the south. 12 o'clock base is humming for worse, by the way, and he was already up on gateways. The Reaver might even be able to hunt a lot of this down, because this is all melee. And that's basically grouped up splash that Earob has to work with. He's currently down 20 supply. A lot of that supply is not at the front. And worst, looking to poke, poking what he can. That shuttle's a bluff and gets wiped out, so now it is a dead bluff. 3 more Reavers on the front, and that is GG. Earob seeing the 3 Reavers. Just gonna call it there. We are now tied 1 apiece going into the final match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.